Hello and welcome to the Knicks-Verse. My name is George, and today we're going to talk about the Knicks and where they're at right now after what I consider to be the season's worst loss. Will these Knicks rise or cave after this loss? I mean, they're facing some very difficult teams just ahead. This win that they gave away, this was something that they needed to put in their pocket as they go and battle the Mavericks, Brooklyn. I don't know what these guys, they did two major mistakes. But before we get into it, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit that thumbs up for me. It's much appreciated. I'll tell you, the problem wasn't who should have taken that last shot. It was that it came down to a last shot. This game should never have come down to a last shot. The Knicks had an 18-point lead, a 13-point lead, 11-point lead, 10-point lead. I mean, they had leads. They even had it in the fourth quarter. They had a 10-point lead. But they let the Timberwolves believe that they could get back in it because they let them stick around. They let them get the lead down to 1 point by the end of the first half after they had an 18-point lead. So that emboldened the Timberwolves. It also emboldened somebody else.
Very last defensive possession and how you guys got this one home.
We told Jaden try not to let Randall catch the ball. We're gonna make somebody else beat us.
Hockey game?
Gladly RJ Barrett caught it, and if he would have made the shot, we would live with it. Because that's what we wanted.
Yeah, they didn't want anyone else taking a shot. You know what? That was a punk move. You don't diss another player like that, man. I don't know, maybe something's going on in there. They didn't realize what you were saying. You got to err on the side of caution, my friend. But if you see, RJ responded with just a laughing and tears face because he's a class act. You, my friend, right now, you are not. You better learn from this experience because you look kind of ridiculous right now. Ridiculous. Yes. That's all the oxygen I'm going to give it because it doesn't deserve more. I just can't wait till next year when RJ plays you. But guess what? Edwards, you get to watch RJ in the playoffs this year. That's right. Something that you won't be in for many years to come. All right, so enough of that. Let's go to the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is where this game was lost. 5 turnovers, crucial turnovers, lackadaisical play. The Knicks they committed 2 mistakes, 2 things that good teams don't do. The first is they took their opponent for granted. I got the feeling while watching this game that they felt that at any moment they could just step their foot on the gas and pull away from this team, which they actually did in the second quarter. That's when they built that 18-point lead. But the other problem was they made the second big mistake. They let the opponent want the game more than them. RJ even said so as much in the post-game interview. I can't remember his exact words, but basically he said they wanted it more. And Thibs said he's disappointed because of the turnovers. We beat ourselves. Those are the 2 things. Taking your opponent for granted and not wanting it more. That's how you beat yourself. And they lost this game, and now the Knicks are going into a stretch of very difficult matchups. They couldn't afford to lose this game, honestly. That's why this is the worst loss of the season. 18 turnovers accounted for 22 points for these Timberwolves. These Timberwolves. They're a bad team. They didn't play bad last night, though. For part of the time they did. But, man, they played some good defense. And I'll tell you. But let's look at some of these bad plays here. Let's look at this one here. This is the killer. This was a soul-crushing play. Look at that. it got the lead down to 4 with 6 minutes left. The Timberwolves knew they could win this. Look, what is Payton even doing there? He's got his back to our basket. He's facing the opponent's basket. It's like what's he doing? I don't. Also, what is Payton doing on the floor in the fourth quarter? Payton should never be allowed anywhere near a basketball court in the fourth quarter. That's just also the numbers bear that out. But somehow Thibs thought that was a good idea. And now here we are. Here we are with the worst loss of the season. It just drove me nuts. But Burks made a terrible mistake. He tried to do a cross-court pass, and it was stolen by Edwards. And was it Edwards? I can't remember. But it ended up in a fast break, and RJ, a bonehead play where he just kind of like tries to smack the ball, but he actually hits the arm. Instead, you have to make sure the player doesn't get if you're going to try and challenge the play, you have to make sure he doesn't get the shot off. So he barely even challenged it, got called for the foul, and it was an and one, and that was a pivotal moment in the game. That's it right there. Bonehead play. He made another bonehead play. Dribbled the ball off his foot. And I believe he made another bad pass. Oh my God. It was just so, I was dying. I'm sure everybody was. I'm sure we were all just wanted to just break our remotes at the time. I was screaming at the TV. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what I was seeing. Oh man, I can kind of laugh a little bit now, but it's only out of just total frustration, honestly. Makes you wonder how good, right now we're in the middle. We're a 500 team again. We're average. So when you're an average team, you can't ever take your foot off the gas. Now, maybe there were some factors going on. I know RJ tweaked his ankle in the first quarter, I believe. Julius, even though he did come on and had a nice game. He scored 26 points. And how many rebounds did he have? Yeah, 12 rebounds. Nice. Always, Julius. I love Julius. And 6 assists. But he had 4 turnovers. And also, he kind of reverted back to that iso ball kind of. Actually, not kind of. The whole fourth quarter, the final minutes of the fourth quarter were just Julius isolated. And 3 shots he missed in a row. And the Wolves scored. And that's where the lead went. But there was a play where Edwards was driving to the basket, and actually it was the go-ahead play for the Wolves, and he met resistance, but he also saw somebody in the middle of the paint covering nobody, somebody with the number 6 on his jersey, Elfrid Payton. Elfrid Payton was in the paint. Why? It was a 2-point game, and he left his man. He left RJ alone to guard 2 men behind the 3-point line on the left side of the court. And what did Edwards do? When he drove, he saw the resistance. I'm going to find the open guy. He found the open guy. Beasley hits the 3-pointer. They go up, and they end up winning the game. When RJ had his chance, he tried to get past Cat. Well, first of all, there were a couple options. I think the first option was if he could drive to the basket, get to the basket, because it was only actually a 1-point game at the time. He might get a foul call, and he's pretty good getting to the basket. But remember, the tweaked ankle, and Ricky Rubio, who was guarding IQ, who had just come back in the game, who was pulled for some unknown reason. He was pulled, especially he had just made a steal, and he was taken out of the game for Burks. But he was put in for the last play, and he was wide open. So RJ should have passed to him, like Edwards passed to Beasley. So that's on RJ. And you know how much I love RJ, but that was just not, that wasn't optimal play. When you want to be a serious team that kicks ass, you have to make the correct ass-kicking plays. Okay? A fadeaway, a 22-foot fadeaway over a 7-footer is not an optimal kick-ass play. So, that's what's happening. Enough with this game. Terrible loss. Let's look forward. Let's look to the Mavs game. The Mavs are actually on a bit of a hot streak right now. They got both Luka and Porzingis back playing. They were out for a couple of games, and then Porzingis came back. Actually, they lost the game that they both didn't play, but since they've both been on the court, they're playing really well. And I'm a little concerned. I'm actually a little concerned about this matchup because I'm wondering if what we saw in the Timberwolves game could carry over. So what I did was I decided to look back at the other really bad losses that the Knicks suffered. The first one that came to mind was the Cleveland Cavaliers loss on January 15th. And I was thinking, well, how did the Knicks respond after that? All right, let's look at it. They went on a 3-game winning streak. That's nice. And not only that, they destroyed the Boston Celtics. That's the way you win. They destroyed them. And then they beat Orlando. They took care of Golden State. Then if it was followed by a 3-game losing streak, but they responded with a 3-game winning streak. So, okay. All right. What was the next really, really bad loss that they suffered? Well, in my opinion, it was the second Miami game. And let's look at what they did there. Yeah, they lost. That was that game. That was that game when RJ, see on that night, RJ made the correct play because he had actually beaten his man. He had gotten past Butler. And, on his left side, his strong side, that shot has a really good chance of going in. It just didn't go in that night, even though there was, I believe it was either IQ or Burks was open on the left corner. But you know what? RJ's beating this guy. This is a much higher percentage shot, and it's to tie the game. I think he made the right play at that point. Some people disagree, but at that point he made the right play. He did not make the right play last night. But the Knicks did respond, again, with another 3-game winning streak after the Miami loss. The Wizards, Rockets, and the Hawks. None of those were world beaters, but, they beat the teams who they're supposed to beat. Again, unlike they didn't do last night. All right, so what was the next loss, the next really devastating loss, in my opinion, was the second game against the Sixers, the overtime game. And how did they respond? Look at that. Once again, with a 3-game winning streak. And this time, they beat the Wizards. And one of those games, RJ really stepped up in the fourth quarter, and so did Burks. But RJ willed the team to victory when Randall wasn't playing that well. He might have been a little injured. I can't remember exactly, but he wasn't playing that well that game. And then we went and beat Milwaukee. So the thing is, see the Minnesota game? Look who follows. Dallas. Detroit, we should be able to win that game pretty easily. But look, we got Brooklyn, Boston, and Memphis. Those 3 are serious, serious teams. They're not going to lay down for us. So there's a chance that if we don't beat the Mavericks tonight, that this could go, the Knicks could lose 4 out of the next 5 games. And that'll put them, 4 out of the next 5 games, that'll put them 3 games under 500. Yeah. And then the slide could happen. So let's hope that they respond the way they have previously. to devastating losses. I hope so, because I had not actually seen what I saw in the Timberwolves game before, where the Knicks just kind of like they gave up and they let the other team want it more. But they didn't give up. They just didn't want it as badly as the opponent, and they took the opponent for granted. So that's not something that I'd seen these Knicks do before. But it happened. It happened. The other thing I want to talk about to wrap this up is the point guard situation. The Knicks have a real problem because they didn't add anybody at the trade deadline. They haven't added anybody in the buyout aftermarket. And the person that they did add earlier on is a 32-year-old Derrick Rose, who I'm ecstatic with what he's contributed when he's been able to contribute. Now, he got hit with COVID. It's a devastating disease. It really drains you. Some people don't even recover for like 6 months, actually, or even longer. Some people, and he's feeling the effects of it. I know that's not the reason he wasn't in the other game before, but still, your body's worn down, and we knew that he wasn't a guy who could play more than 25 minutes a game anyway. So we're really stuck with Elfrid Payton. Is that what we're looking at right now? That's you guys all I've already done countless videos about this. And honestly, I want to be straight out right now. If Thibs had made IQ the starter before the Rose trade, which is what I was calling for way back then, this rookie would have had 15 games. I don't know how many games it was, 15, 16, whatever it is, games to have, worked all the issues out. And he could be a really good point guard for this team. He's not a traditional point guard. He's not a facilitator point guard. But you know what's something he doesn't do? He doesn't turn the fucking ball over. Yeah, he doesn't turn it over. Which is truly mind-boggling that Payton could have done that play, that terrible play, like that. And that's not even it. He did a bunch of other plays. He tried to force a shot. If it weren't for Taj, it just happened to get the ball and he put it back. I mean, that bucket, if we didn't get that bucket, the game would have been lost even earlier. Something's going on here. Somebody has to save Thibs. Somebody has to save Thibs from himself. He has constructed a rotation that is totally flawed. Basically, the Knicks start out every game with a handicap, and it's Elfrid Payton, because he doesn't play the way that the other players on the court benefit from. No. He's a non-optimal player. Something happened in the 70s. You guys know I'm sure you know the famous Citicorp building, the beautiful one with the diagonal roof line. When that was first built in 1976, I believe, 76 or 77, it was a marvel. It was truly fantastic. The architect and the structural engineer, they were just, they did an amazing job. And I don't know if you know, the building is built on stilts, these 4 stilts. Well, there was a graduate student at the time who was studying the building. And he was studying the math of the wind and the way it hits the angles of the building. And he discovered a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw that when the winds reach a certain speed, which in New York, they come like every 55 years or so. I forgot the name of the winds. That the building wouldn't withstand it. No, it would actually corkscrew, and it would have decimated all of Midtown Manhattan. Yes, this actually could have happened. It actually was going to happen. But the graduate student reached out to, it was either the architect or the structural engineer, and he made them aware of this. And they were like, what? But you know what they didn't do? They weren't stubborn. They didn't have ego. They listened to the kid, and they looked at the math, which is what Thibs should do. Look at the math. When IQ and RJ and Randall are on the court together, this is a plus 18 team. That's just, and those numbers are constantly fluctuating, but that's an excellent offense. Get them on the court. Our defense is tremendous. We have the best defense in the NBA. We can withstand not having Alfred on the court for his dumb. God, he over rotates. He's often lost. He loses his man many times. In my opinion, I don't even think he's that good a defender. Maybe he once was, but this year something's up, and something's up with Thibs's unwillingness to allow IQ take the mantle of the starting point guard, and then when Rose is healthy, he will be the second unit point guard to help that unit, and he'll help Obi, and who knows, maybe Knox can get in there. But Payton should be sitting behind Ntilikina. That's the only way this team is really going to avoid the play-in my opinion. If he doesn't do this, this team is going to be lucky to get the eighth seed, so that they can at least have the home court advantage, or whatever they call it. I think you only have to win one game if you're the 8th seed. Ah, boy. But I tell you, Thibs, you're doing an amazing job every other aspect except for this Payton situation, which is confusing to 90% of the Knicks fan base. But everything else, how you've utilized Randall, how you've motivated RJ to become not great, but he's on the ascension to become a great two-way player. How you've used Burks. I like how you've used Burks. Your fascination with Bullock has actually paid off, because I was, a lot of people we were concerned. We're like, Bullock is not scoring. We need him to score. But you stuck with him, and look what he's done. Yeah, he has some off nights here and there. You asked for Derrick Rose to be brought to the team. We were all concerned about that because we were worried about how it would impact IQ's minutes. And, in hindsight, it actually has impacted IQ's minutes, which was something we were worried about. We want IQ to get 25 minutes a game. I think he's at around 21 or so. Actually, maybe even less sometimes. So there are some issues there. But you've done an incredible job. You should be commended for that. But you need to quit Elf. You need to stop with that. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and hit that thumbs up button for us. And I actually do not have a prediction for the Mavs game. I really don't know how it's going to go, because the Mavs are playing sensationally at this moment for them, and the Knicks are not. But if the past is any indication of the future, the Knicks may surprise us, and they may come out and destroy the Mavericks. So this is a game that I would not bet on. All right. See you around the Knicks-Verse.